Welcome, children of God, to my channel, Lady of Victory Ministries. My name is Laura. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for joining me once again. If you are new here, welcome to the family. It's wonderful to have you all here. I do want to apologize for the long hiatus in between my testimonies, but I am back and I am happy and healthy and well. There has been some heavy spiritual attacks, warfare that I have been battling, lots of attacks on my physical home, on my household, and on my family and my children as well. This will be a testimony released, sometime in the near future, but that is the reason for the long hiatus. So please keep me in your prayers. Please keep my two children, my son and my daughter, in your prayers. Cover them by the blood of Jesus and the protection. I could use all the prayers that I can get due to the battles that we have been facing here as of late. This testimony in and of itself is a heavy one. It's going to, go back into my past around the 2008-2009 era, when I was dating the bad boy, the one who ended up being in my life for something along the lines of like 17 and a half years on and off. And we were engaged in the past. And the choice that we made to have an abortion. I did. I had an abortion. So this is the testimony. This is going to be the story. I'm going to share the story of exactly what happened and what led us there, why we collectively even chose to do this in the first place. And I do want to let you know that I have never, ever, ever in my entire history of life been pro-choice. I've always been pro-life. So I can understand where some people may want to come at me in the comments and say, well, if you had an abortion, that means you're pro-choice. No, the enemy just came in and attacked me, and it cost my child's life. So, in a moment of weakness, in a moment of uncertainty, the enemy crept in, and that's how the enemy does. That's how he works. It's always a battle of the mind, and he's going to get you to try to choose wrongly. He's going to try to get you to go in the opposite direction that you should go. And in this case, he had me and it worked. So this was way back in 2008. I was dating the bad boy, Brian. If you want to listen to that word, go back into my previous videos. He's in there. There's a testimony of our relationship in there. Okay. So, but this was left out because this has to be a standalone testimony due to, it was the battle in itself. So I truly believe, I want to say that I believe that she was a girl. Both him and I, to this day, believe that she was a girl. And our baby girl's in heaven. She would be 16 years old. She would have had her sweet 16 this January. So it's absolutely wild to think about. I was 19 years old, freshly dating bad boy Brian, and we had not had any sexual relations at all. I will say, I was dating my high school sweetheart on and off for 13, 14 years. But during the last 2 years of us dating is when I met Brian, and he actually was dating one of my coworkers. He was interested in me. I wasn't available, and he said the way that he was planning on staying close to me, he wanted to stay near me and close to me, was to date my friend. This is obviously toxic, not a good guy. He was 24 and I was 19. But when we first started dating, I should say. So he met me, goodness, I was 17, 18 when we met. And so he would have been, younger than that, It probably wouldn't have even been legal, honestly, if we would have started dating when we first met. But I was freshly out of high school when we met, and he was after me for 2 whole years. Well, then finally we did start dating, and I'll never forget the very first time we did the deed. We used a condom, and I was not on birth control. My mom was heavily against birth control. in general, due to that, just it would make it easier for us to sneak around and, you know, have sexual activities with our boyfriends. And so she truly believed that I was a virgin, but I had, you know, been with my high school sweetheart prior to Brian. But, so I wasn't on birth control. We used a condom, and the condom broke. The condom broke. And I'll never forget, I was in, you know, in his apartment, and he went into the bathroom, you know, afterwards to clean up or whatever, and he says, "Oh, Laura, the condom broke." And I said, "What? It did? Oh my gosh." And then he laughed and said, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It didn't." I don't know why he lied, but I'll get to this here in a little bit. But I don't know if it was my freak out, how I reacted when he was, you know, telling me the truth, just and seeing how I would react. But you know, that's probably why he turned around and, you know, said that it was a joke and that he was lying. You know, time goes by, and, you know, I have never had children before. I had never been pregnant before. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know what's going on with my body. I honestly don't remember a lot of this. I just remember that I started getting morning sickness. I got really, really, really sick. And even my sister said that my mom was still alive during this time. She was not a fan of Brian. I mean, he grew on her, I guess, but, you know, in the beginning, she was not a fan. And I guess I found this out years later. Like, I found this out maybe a year or two ago, that my sister told me that my mom suspected that I was pregnant. She was like, "Have you noticed Laura? She's acting, you know, she's sick all the time. She's acting different. She's always tired." So my sister said that mom suspected I was pregnant, and I had no idea all these years. Well, my mom was ultra conservative. So she was very strict in the fact that, like, when I moved out for a short period of time, she said she was going to stop paying for my college if she ever found out, like, Brian was staying the night at my apartment. And she also, there was no, you know, there was like hand checks and all that kind of stuff when boyfriends were over. She always was nearby. We were never alone, but we always still found a way, you know what I mean? Like, we could leave the house, and that's what happened. It happened at his apartment. And I'll never forget the day that I decided to take a pregnancy test. It was at Brian's house. He's, you know, last time we talked, he still remembers this to this day as well, that I had a pregnancy test, and it lit up like a Christmas tree so fast, positive. I mean, that sucker didn't need time to marinate. And I come out of that bathroom, and he's, you know, waiting with bated breath, like out in the hallway, like, so, you know, he didn't go in the bathroom with me. He was waiting and he was waiting. Actually, he wasn't even in the hallway. He was down the hall. So I come in, here's the bathroom. There's a long hallway, and then there was his kitchen. So he was waiting in the kitchen. And I take that pregnancy test, and I chuck it down that hallway, and I said, "Well, there goes my effing reputation." Because, yeah, I was a good girl. I got straight A's in school. I was a cheerleader. I was homecoming queen, known as a virgin, you know, minus my high school sweetheart. I was a good girl. I was like the Sandra D type, like in Grease. And so I was more worried about my reputation than anything. But then the second thing was my mom. My mom is going to murder me. She's going to disown me. She's going to kick me out of the house. She's not going to support this child. She's going to hate me forever. Like, what am I going to do? I can't move out. I was 19. I was 19 years old. And Brian to this day remembers me saying, "There goes my effing reputation." But, you know, I said the curse word. You know, I'm pregnant for a little while. I remember it was really strange. I remember there was so much I couldn't eat, Everything made me sick. But the only thing I could keep down was Pop-Tarts. And now to this day, I hate Pop-Tarts. And I think it's because I ate them so much when I was pregnant then. So like, what's crazy is I don't know if I said this before. This was the first time we had sex together. The first time we had sex together, okay? So then, when I found out that I was pregnant, Chuck the pregnancy test down the hallway, at some point, I had asked him, I said, the condom really did break, didn't it? The condom really did break, didn't it? And he was like, yeah, it did. So I don't understand why he made a joke about it. I really don't understand. And the crazy thing is, I'm just remembering right now, flashback to when we first did the deed. He knew my reputation. He knew I was considered, like, I was a wholesome person. I still went to church at this time. I never cussed. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. He influenced me to go down that line of party days and smoking and drinking and things like that. Premarital sex and all that started with him. But before him, I was never like that. So when we first had sex together, I remember he kept asking me over and over and over, and I was so annoyed. He's like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I kept saying yes, like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm sure. I wonder if that was the Holy Spirit. I'm just thinking about all that right now. Like, I should have said, yeah, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm not sure. Let's stop. So, yeah, I'm addicted to Pop-Tarts because it's the only thing I can keep down. And I don't really remember a lot of what happened. But I in between this time before the decision of the abortion, but I do remember I talked to my sister about it, and I talked to my best girlfriend about it, and I did not know what to do. I remember, Planned Parenthood is known for abortions, right? Our local Planned Parenthood apparently didn't do abortions because me and my best girlfriend went there to go check it out, to ask questions and find out some information. And they were like, well, we don't do that here. And I'm like, well, do you have resources? No. I'm like, what are you guys even here for? Like, what's the point of this? Like, why are you even a location? If you can't do abortions and you don't have resources, why are you here? So that was extremely frustrating. But I remember just not knowing what to do, and only 3 people knew. My man, my sister, and my best friend. Well, we discussed it, and I think truthfully, I probably pressured him into it more than us collectively doing it together, because he was very, very madly much in love with me. I mean, he chased me for 2 years before I finally said yes, and we were on and off for 17 years. So, and we were engaged later down the line, so he really did truly love me. So I don't think he wanted to have an abortion, but he understood why I wanted to do it, and he agreed, and we paid for it 50-50. I'll never forget. So I lived in my hometown, and we had to drive. There was no place, obviously, to have an abortion in my hometown, so we had to drive an hour away to my closest metro city who did do this, and I'll never forget that street. I'll never forget seeing that road sign to this day. And I don't know why I was driving. He always drove us everywhere. But for whatever reason, I was driving, and I got hungry on the way, and we stopped at McDonald's. And I remember I took like 2 bites of that McDonald's, and I'm like, take the burgers out of the bag, and he's like, huh, what? And he's like taking the burgers out of the bag, and while I'm driving down our interstate highway, I'm throwing up in this bag on the way to the abortion clinic. But yeah, it's just wild times, and I'll always forget or always remember Good Charlotte's Good Morning Revival, that album, because that's the CD I had in my car, and I was obsessed with her. Good Charlotte just came out with her brand new album, Good Morning Revival, and that was on repeat. So I don't want to be in love. I don't want to be in love. Every time I hear that song, I'm instantly thrown back to driving down that highway and seeing the exit sign of this road. And what's funny is later down the line, years later, I end up working on this road. And I see this road all the time because now I live even closer to this metro city. It was very, very traumatizing. So I think that's why I remember so many of these little tiny details. So we go into this really, really sketchy place. I didn't want to have a DNC. I knew what a DNC was, to where you rip a baby out of your body limb for limb. And I was not going to do that. And I was not going to, that was just very morbid, and that really felt like murder to me. But it also wasn't only that, it was I wasn't far along enough yet. So it turns out I was only 6 weeks along, and I remember being in this room. There were so many girls, so many of us, sitting in this room, and we're all just sitting there. We're all just sitting there together, like waiting to have abortions together, and we're all not showing. We're all not far along enough, because this specific place, they would give you a pill that you would put right down in here, and I remember they said you have to leave it in between your gum and your cheek. You got to let it sit there, and you have to let it dissolve, and then you had to stay there in that room until it was completely dissolved. And so that's what we did. And he was with me. He was with me this whole time, okay? So we had to wait in the room until it was dissolved, but then you got another one that you took home with you. You had to wait so long before you took another one. But all I just remember is these girls. There was just so many of us. It wasn't like a couple. There were so many of us. And we all had to do the pill thing. Because for some reason, I don't remember why, I'm remembering us all sitting in that waiting room together with the pills in our mouths, like all of us just chilling and waiting for them to dissolve together. That's what I remember. And I remember a lot of blue. I just remember blue seats, blue walls. So much blue. Like a doctor's office blue, you know? So yeah, that deed was done, and I'll say that he paid half, I paid half, he paid half. It's wildly expensive. I couldn't afford it. I had to put my half on a credit card. You know, it was not covered by, I don't even know if I had insurance. Honestly, I don't know back then if it was covered by insurance or not, but I didn't have insurance, so it's regardless. We drove home, and I remember I went straight home. I think I was so traumatized, I couldn't even hang out with him after. But they also said, you know, what this pill does is it causes you to miscarry. It causes your body to force the baby out. So I in hindsight, probably just didn't want to be going through that with him watching me. Are you okay? Are you okay? And it was just going to be really humiliating. And so I went home. Why I went home, I don't know. But luckily, nobody was there. Nobody was there. My sister wasn't there. Mom and dad weren't there. It was during the week. So my dad was definitely at work. I don't know where my mom was. It could have been during the time when she was working as well, but she worked retail, so it didn't matter what day of the week it was for her. But all I know is I went home and I laid on that couch. I didn't even go to my room in the basement, so like if mom walked through the door, she wouldn't see me. No, I was laying there in that couch going into full-on labor. So after I took that pill, it wasn't long after I took that second pill, after you had to wait so long, that I went into active labor. And I didn't know what labor was, what it felt like. It was the most painful, excruciating feeling I'd ever had in my life. Just think of going through childbirth and labor without an epidural. Yes, I wasn't pushing out a full-size baby, but the contractions and my uterus was doing everything that it does when you are ready to give birth to a full-grown baby. So all that pain, I've had 2 children since, and I can attest to that the pain was the same. It's just I wasn't dilating. But like the uterine contractions and the pain within those muscles, it was the same as when you give birth to 2 full-term children, but without an epidural. So I just remember rolling back and forth on that couch, rolling back and forth. It just hurt so bad, so bad, so bad. And then all of a sudden I just felt like I felt something happening down there. And this is the part that's really, I'm going to give you a discretion here. I'm going to be graphic because I feel like I need to paint this picture. And this is the part that tore me up inside for years and years and years, and I still have trauma over it. But I ran to the bathroom, sat on the toilet, and bloop, out came my baby in that toilet. It was a baby. It wasn't a fetus. It wasn't a clump of cells. She was 6 weeks. She was like this big, this big. And like, she had eyeballs. Her skin was so thin, but you could see her heart. Her heart was like bulging out of her chest, you know, with this very thin, translucent skin. She had fingers, she had toes, she had ears. She was a baby. I don't care what anybody else says. That was a baby. And she was in my toilet. Covered in blood, covered in all that, everything that comes out of you when you give birth, except for the fact that everything was just tiny version. I've shared a lot of pictures from different abortion pages on my Facebook page of tiny little babies who were aborted or miscarried, to kind of give a picture. And I'm probably, if it will allow me to, I will share that on here as well, whether in the comments. I don't know how to edit videos, guys, so I'll put it on in the comments about the size that she was. But she was a baby. And I will, what else do you do? She's in my toilet and she got flushed. And it's really heartbreaking and it's sad, and I have been traumatized by it ever since. Her name would have been London, because Brian always wanted to have a daughter named London. So London's in heaven with my mom and my grandma and grandpa and my aunt and uncle. They're all up there having a party. She probably had her sweet 16 up there. But I also, I have to say, the reason why I chose to do this was entirely selfish. What would people think of me? A 19-year-old mom, basically a teen mom, with this dude, with this new guy that just came into my life after I was with my high school sweetheart for 14 years. What would people think? What would my church think? What would my school think? My classmates, because I went to a Christian school my whole life. What would my mom say? My mom's going to disown me. My grandma is going to disown me. They're going to tell me I have to marry him. And they really would have to. They would say, well, you're having a baby, you have to marry him. All this stuff was running through my head. But it was all selfish. All selfish. I took a life. I am a murderer of my own child through abortion. And I wish she were here. I wonder what she would have been like. Would she have been outgoing? Would she have been shy? Would she be on track to go to a university? Or would she want to do cosmetology? Would she want to be a nurse, a doctor? Would she want to be just a mom and get married and have babies? Would she have been a girly girl? Would she have been a tomboy? You know, all these things, you know, run through my head because she was my firstborn. my first child, that, and it's so hard. It's so hard. Like when I go to my yearly OB and everything, to see that checklist, you have to answer all the questions when you go to the doctor, and they ask you like, how many births have you had? And abortion is a selection on there. And I stare at it and I just look at it every single time. I'm like, there's a check mark next to, 2 full-term pregnancies, 1 abortion. And I was so embarrassed by this. I was so embarrassed that I didn't want anybody to know. I only wanted those 3 to know. But for whatever reason, Brian told this guy that I went to school with, he was in our friend group, our hangout scene. We were all emo kids back then and hanging out, going to local shows and screamo bands and everything. He was one of these guys who was the screamer in one of these bands, but I also went to school with him, and he became very close with my boyfriend. Well, my boyfriend told him. And that dude was so mean. I don't know if he was trying to purposely ruin my reputation, because I was known as a goody-goody. He always chased me in school, and I never gave him the time of day. And I don't know if that was his act of revenge against me, but he decided to tell the whole world on Facebook. This was still in MySpace days, but he chose Facebook over MySpace to tell the world that I had an abortion. And of course, I denied it. I lied. I remember I commented on it and I said, not funny, not true, you're dead to me. And I cut that dude out of my life because he outed me. He exposed me for the evil that I did. And I was so embarrassed and I was so mortified that I cut him out of my life over that when it was my own fault. I was so full of guilt. He was right. I was wrong. I hated myself. And I still hate myself for that to this day. And I know the Bible says that we shouldn't hate. I don't hate myself. I hate my decision. I hate what I did. I truly believe she would have been a beautiful girl. She would have been such a help with my other 2 children. And however you feel, that I just want this testimony to at least help some people. If you are torn, if you are on the fence of what decision that you will make, I promise you it will haunt you for the rest of your life. It is the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. I think about her every day. I miss her, and I don't even know her. One day I'll get to meet her in heaven. But I just love her so much. My little London. Her name would have been London Faith. Because later on, years down the line, when him and I were still together and we were planning to get married and planning children and coming up with names, she was going to be London Faith. Funny enough, he is married and has a family of his own now, but he loves that name so much he does have his own London now. So I'm very happy that he did still get his London. He loves her greatly too. He loves her so greatly. And I love my London. And I can't wait to meet her one day. I can't wait until I get up into heaven and she runs into my arms. I'll get to talk to her and look at her for the first time in my life. I just want this to be a testimony for those who don't look at abortion as murder, that it's health care, because it's my body. No, it's not. You are 2 separate entities. The second that sperm fertilizes that egg, that baby has a soul that instant. And if you take that life from that baby, or that clump of cells or that zygote, whatever you want to call it, that child has immediately gone to heaven. If you take that child's life, it is murder. And people, want to argue. I'm not going to go into semantics. I'm not going to go into whether you were raped. It's like 0.01 or 0.1%. It's not even 0.1, I don't believe. That's too high. Of cases where, the abortion was because of rape. Great. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. I hope it doesn't get taken down. But even then, I would still advocate for you to keep the child. There's a show on Netflix. Oh, shoot. Something Lies. Something Little Lies. It's got Nicole Kidman in it, and it's got the girl from all the Divergent movies. The girl from the Divergent movies, her character in this show was great, got pregnant, and she chose to keep her child. And I was so proud of Netflix and Hollywood to actually make a show where a rape victim kept the child. And it was the storyline in this show. And it was such a good show. Like, she knew that her child, she could separate. She could compartmentalize that. Yes, this guy was an awful guy. Yes, he did what he did. But my son, he is his own little person. He is his own human. He has his own soul. He has his own spirit, his own mind, his own heart. Same with when a murder actually does happen of a pregnant woman, it's always deemed a double homicide. Because it is two bodies that are murdered. I don't care what society and what the world teaches and says it's healthcare. It's not. And I'm here to convict you and tell you the truth. If you've had an abortion, you are a murderer just like me. But the good news is God forgives. All I had to do was ask for forgiveness. I don't know if I actually asked for forgiveness for a very, very, very long time. I was so ashamed. I ran away. I ran away from God over it. Like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, hiding their shame, hiding their guilt. That was me and God. But He has since forgiven me. And I know she's in heaven. I know she's safe. She's well taken care of. She's happy. And I can't wait to meet her one day. But I just want you guys to know that even if you have, you can be forgiven. It might be hard to forgive yourself. I know lots of women regret having abortions. I know that. And, when I got pregnant with my son, even his dad asked, have you considered the alternative? And I said, no way. Like, even when I was pro-life, I still made the choice to abort. That did not make me pro-choice. The enemy came in, the devil came in, and he won in that moment. But you know what? He doesn't win in the end. And you know why? Because all children go to heaven. He got into me to have me take my own child's life to attempt to destroy me, to have me hate myself over it, to cause trauma for the last 16 years in my mind over it. But my God wins in the end. You know why? Because London's in heaven. Every child is innocent. Every child has a pure, innocent soul and spirit. That every single child that has ever been aborted, ever in the history of mankind, is in heaven right now. And so if you've ever had an abortion, just rest in that truth. Rest in that peace, especially if you regret it. That your child is more than okay. okay. Your child is in heaven with Jesus, living it up, having a way better time up there than we are down here. Abortion is not the answer, okay? If you're watching this and you are torn on what to do, please don't. You know, there's so many other families out there who can't have children, who want children. You know, take the route like the movie Juno. She's a teen pregnant girl, and I love that movie too. What's funny is that movie was mine and Brian's first date. Mind blown right now. And instead of doing what she did in this movie, she's a teen pregnant girl. She goes all through high school walking around with this pregnant belly, but she knows she's incapable of taking care of a child at 16, so she gives it up for adoption. That family turned out to be broken, but it was broken beautiful. That baby still went to a mommy who always wanted a child. And there's somebody out there who wants a baby so bad. That doesn't mean your child has to go into the system. No, you can bypass the system. You can bypass foster care. You can bypass child protective services, all that. You can go straight into adoption. Private adoption, where the family pays for all of your health care needs, pays for all the doctor's visits, pays for all the ultrasounds if you don't have medical insurance. There's lots of people out there who want children so badly, they will do anything. And they will cover everything that you need. And that's what happened in this movie Juno. And funny, the first date we went and saw that movie, and then when we did the deed and got pregnant after the first time, we went the complete opposite route because we let the enemy in. We let the enemy in. Satan does that a lot. If you ever notice when something life-changing happens or something, like funerals, the enemy always creeps into funerals and families start fighting each other, like at funerals, have you ever noticed that? Same thing. Enemy crept in because he knew that I had this reputation that I had to uphold. So he used that. He got in my head, got in my brain. Got me to choose wrong. And he laughed all the way through it. But I laugh in the end because I know my London's in heaven. He will never, ever, ever be able to lay hands on my London. So, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to share my story. Plant some sort of seed, I guess. Allow some sort of conviction to be placed into your heart. Doesn't matter who the father is. Doesn't matter if he's some D-bag, some guy who left, dipped out on you. I've been there. When I first had my son, his dad is a wonderful dad now, but he wasn't at first. He dipped. It's every dad has the right to be a father, just as every mother has the right to be a mother. The choice of taking a child's life shouldn't just be solely on the mother. It should be on the father too. And in my case it was. We both made the decision together. I'm sure I pressed him. But if you're having a child with this man, and this man is begging you and pleading that you keep the child, please listen to him. He wants to be a dad so bad. Whether or not you even want to be with him, that doesn't matter. Who cares? You don't have to be with him just because you're having a child with him. This is for somebody today. This is for somebody. Doesn't mean you have to be with him. There's so many families that don't make it. But the child is happy and healthy and safe and has 2 homes and 2 birthday parties and 2 Christmases and, it'll be okay. Everything works out in the end. And I wish I would have known that back then, because you know what? Now I know with my mom, she wouldn't have disowned me. she probably would have been very angry with me, and she probably would have tried to make me marry Brian. But I was so in my feminist era that I probably would have fought her hard on that. But she would have been the best grandma in the world. And then I took that away from her because she died before my other 2 children came into this world. I not only took my own child's life, but I took the chance for my mom to be a grandmother while she was still on this earth. She would have had 2 beautiful years. Because I got pregnant in 2008, in April of 2008. We started dating April 15th and did it and got pregnant. That way I would have been having London January of 2009. And my mom died in 2011. So my mom, who knows, she might have not died. I don't know. It could have changed the course of history forever. My life could be totally different right now if I would have just taken different actions, made different choices, better life choices. But I'm here to tell you I was young and I was dumb. I was a stupid 19-year-old feminist who was still a pro-lifer. I was not pro-choice whatsoever, but I was very women's empowerment. I allowed him to be involved in everything, but I still called all the shots. I still made all the choices. We paid for it 50-50, but I gave that man a hard time. I gave that man a hard time throughout our whole relationship. It was not an easy relationship. It was very difficult. It could have been from all the trauma. I don't know. But this was a very heavy word, and it was very hard for me to deliver because this was the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. I regret it to this day. And I am just doing anything in my power to try to stop somebody. If I could just stop one person from aborting their child today, I will know that I've done something for the Lord, something for the kingdom of heaven. If I just can save one soul. Because remember, your baby, my baby London, who was only this big, had a heart coming out of her chest. I mean, it was so translucent, but there was a heart there, and there was fingers, and there was toes, there was ears, there was a mouth, there was eyeballs. They were like jet black, alien looking eyeballs. But she was a baby. Please, 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 whether you're a Christian or not, I just pray that this comes across your screen today, that you take this story and apply it to your life and pray. Seek God's wisdom. And if you're feeling any doubts at all, don't. You know that saying, when in doubt, don't? Please, because children are the most beautiful thing. Children are the most beautiful thing, and your life will change for the better. You think life is great now? You got all this freedom? Oh, no. Let me tell you, sweetheart, life is just going to accelerate. It's just going to just expound. Is that the right word? Exponentially. By bringing that child into your life. Children bring so much joy. Children are a wonderful, wonderful thing, and Jesus loves the little children of the world. And I love you all. I ask that you pray over this. And if you have a testimony yourself that you would like to leave me in the comments, I will read every single one, and I will try to be an encouragement to you. And know that your comments will be an encouragement to me, because sometimes we just, in solidarity, it's sometimes helpful to know you're not alone in things. But as a Christian woman, I definitely don't condone abortion, okay? Even though I had one. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.